I welcome all the educators to this webinar related to 3 days Bhavan's Educators Leadership Program,
Morning,
and my
ma'am.
sincerest gratitude to Dr. A.K. Sharma for providing me this opportunity to share my views on disruptive behavior, violence, bullying, and exclusion. So here, first of all, the question arises that what is disruptive behavior disorder? So, the disruptive behavior disorder is a group of conditions that involve violating the rights and desires of other people and create significant conflict with authority figures and unhealthy functioning in society. Ongoing agitation or disruption that disturbs teaching and learning, a student engages in yelling, unyielding debate, purposeful misbehavior, entering or exiting the classroom disruptively, unproductive criticism, untimely talking, crying, laughter, etc. So here we will be showing you a picture. Here we can see the children doing various actions over there. Children are showing tantrums in one of the picture. They are fighting with each other in one of the pictures. In the other scene, they are pulling hair. Then they are showing frustration, making fun of the other person by making the group, thus showing exclusion also. So now we will see the reasons for the disruptive behavior, in which we will find out that the reasons include of individual, society, school environment, physiopsychological needs, home environment. These are some of the reasons for disruptive behavior. On individual basis, we can see that self-perception of academic competence, social recognition are the reasons. And in physio-psychological needs, we can see lack of motivation, lack of sense of belongingness, physical and psychological safety. So now we'll be playing a video.
Include oppositional defiant disorder, intermittent explosive disorder, conduct disorder, pyromania, kleptomania, other specified disruptive, impulse control and conduct disorder, and unspecified disruptive impulse control and conduct disorder. These behaviors are characterized by fighting, lying, stealing, temper tantrums, destruction of property, and resistance to authority. Over time, these behaviors can disrupt school performance and relationships with friends and family. Children suffering from these disorders are more likely to experience long-term challenges, such as mental disorders, violence, and delinquency. Environmental factors contributing to disruptive behavior disorders in children include, but are not limited to, parental divorce, separation, substance abuse, parental criminal activity, and familial conflict. They are also at higher risk of developing disruptive behaviors if family members have experienced depression, anxiety, or learning disorders. Early treatment is critical for children with disruptive behavior problems. Effective treatments consist of group or individual behavior therapy for parents, with the child attending the session as well.
So here we can see that disruptive student behaviors include a number of things, which include speak out of turn, blur out, then making inappropriate or humorous comments at inappropriate times, trying to engage others while they are working, dropping things, laugh, or making noises on purpose, out of seat, walking around, sharpening pencil, over socializing, and finding fault with everything others say, bother other students. So we will also look into that what are the different types of disruptive disorders. It includes ADHD, which is attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, ODD, which is oppositional defiant disorder, CD, conduct disorder, PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, and we will discuss about them in the coming slides. So we have seen that Attention deficit hyperactivity disorder is the most commonly studied and diagnosed mental disorder in children and adolescents. Most common ADHD symptoms in children can be seen like inattention, hyperactivity, disorganization, forgetfulness, daydreaming, emotional instability. So, in inattention, a person can't focus on tasks and have trouble paying attention while someone is speaking directly to them. In case of hyperactivity, the children they have really hard time when stay seated, fidget or tap hands or feet, or squirm in seat, manifest difficulty waiting for his or her turn, and usually interrupt others when talking or cut into activities. Noticeable characteristic is impulsivity, being unable to think before acting. If we talk about disorganization, children never complete tasks and especially avoid activities that require a mental effort. Usually, they perform activities in a messy, disorganized way. If we talk about forgetfulness, frequently forget the daily tasks like homework or chores and lose things such as toys and books. And children also make careless mistakes. If we talk about daydreaming, it is hard to get the attention of children with ADHD. They may share into space, daydream, and ignore what's going on around them. Emotional instability includes the children having bursts of emotions, usually anger at inappropriate or unexpected times. So ADHD among teenagers, it includes attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, which is a neurodevelopmental disorder, and it is being diagnosed in over 3.3 million people between the ages of 12 and 17, according to a 2016 survey. And no one has all the signs and symptoms of ADHD. And even if a teen has few, it doesn't mean that they have it. Here are 16 ways that ADHD can show itself in a teenager. Lack of focus. A teen with ADHD might have trouble staying on task. They may start on a project only to end up starting another before finishing. Being easily distracted can lead to careless mistakes at school, work, or home. Then we talk about disorganization. Everyone misplaces the house keys on occasion, but this can be a common occurrence in a teen with ADHD. They may spend a lot of time searching for their possessions. Time mismanagement can lead to missed appointments and deadlines. Self-focused behavior. It can be difficult for a teen with ADHD to recognize what other people want or need. They can have a hard time waiting for others and talking terms. Fidgeting, restlessness is a common sign of ADHD. Someone with ADHD might find it difficult to sit still without squirming or getting up. Further, there are some other symptoms like heightened emotionality. Research suggests that people with ADHD may not reach the emotional maturity of a typical 21-year-old until their late 20s or early 30s. Adolescence is an emotional roller coaster. With ADHD in the mix, angry outbursts and overly dramatic scenes may play out in inappropriate circumstances. Fear of rejection. Rejection sensitive dysphoria is a common in people with neurodevelopmental disorders such as ADHD. High emotions can be triggered by rejection, teasing, or criticism. Daydreaming. A person with ADHD may find themselves lost in daydreams for long periods. Impulsivity. Teens in general tend to be more impulsive than adults. For a teen with ADHD, resisting temptation may be particularly difficult, potentially leading to dangerous decisions. Difficulty following a conversation. ADHD can interfere with conversational skills in the following ways, like appearing not to listen even when someone is speaking directly to them, interrupting, talking too much, leaving mid conversation, butting into others' conversations. Then procrastination, which means that it is a byproduct of lack of focus. It's especially noticeable in things that take a long time. The teen might put off homework or other duties so long that they completely miss deadlines. Trouble working quietly. Quiet activities are generally not easy for a teen with ADHD. They may find it difficult to sit and read or work on a project by themselves. They're always on the go. Teens tend to have fewer hyperactive symptoms than younger children with ADHD, but some are flurry of activity. They may be set on playing their favorite video game 1 minute and going to a friend's house the next. Trouble reading social cues. They may not realize it when they are interrupted or annoyed someone. It may be difficult to make up or keep friends. Trouble compromising with others, lacking focus, difficulty following a conversation, and trouble with social cues can make it hard to compromise with others. Personal hygiene issues. It's not true of every teen with ADHD, but some have a problem keeping up with personal hygiene. It may have to do with disorganization and procrastination, difficulty following directions, lack of focus, restlessness, and mind wandering can make detailed instructions nearly impossible to follow. So here we can see a picture where we can see the creativity among a child who is suffering from ADHD. So ADHD can also have positive effects such as creativity, flexibility, enthusiasm. And ADHD it can be diagnosed by a doctor based on the type and severity of symptoms and how they affect the daily life. It can be treated with behavior therapy, medication, parent coaching, or a combination of these options. It is not a sign of low intelligence or bad parenting, but a brain difference that can be managed. So here we will see a picture in which we can see that the parenting strategies for children with ADHD, it includes providing positive attention, give effective instructions, praising your child's effort, then establishing rewards for them, using consistent consequences. So we will further look upon the teaching strategies to help kids with ADHD. One piece of directions at a time should be given. Give written directions. Check work early and often. Pattern and mnemonics. The mnemonic techniques, these are always to help us to memorize a phrase or idea with patterns. Using real life examples and the use of technology and visual aids. We will be showing a video related to ADHD so that we can get more clarity regarding this disorder.
About attention deficit disorder, or ADD, is that it's used to describe someone who can't stay focused. And when they really can't focus, they have attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, or ADHD. This continuum from one to the next isn't quite how it works, though. ADD and ADHD are actually synonymous, as in they're the same. ADD is an outdated term used prior to 1987, after which it evolved into ADHD to encompass more of the symptoms that people with ADHD often experience, which, in addition to being inattentive, includes both hyperactivity and impulsiveness. So somebody might be diagnosed with ADHD because they have symptoms related to not being able to pay attention, but they might also be diagnosed with ADHD if they have symptoms related to being overly active and impulsive. They might also have ADHD if they have symptoms of both. According to the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual for Mental Disorders, the 5th edition, the most recent update being in 2013, ADHD is split into 3 subtypes: inattentive, hyperactive impulsive, or both. Inattentive and hyperactive impulsive have a set of 9 symptoms each. For example, someone with the inattentive subtype might make careless mistakes, or not listen, or be easily distracted. And someone with a hyperactivity and impulsive subtype might fidget, or squirm around, or get up from their chair often. Now, you might be thinking that everyone fidgets now and then, right? Well, a diagnosis is given when someone has 6 of the 9 symptoms for either subtype for at least 6 months. Most commonly, though, children have symptoms of both subtypes, and therefore have the combined subtype. Since ADHD is considered a neurodevelopmental disorder, the symptoms also have to have started between age 6 and 12, and the behavior can't be appropriate for their age. All right, but what causes someone to be hyperactive or impulsive or inattentive? Well, as you might guess, it's pretty complicated, and we don't really know. Probably a lot of different factors. And ultimately, they all fall into some combination of environmental and genetic factors. One interesting clue to a genetic component of ADHD is looking at families. For example, a child with a sibling that's been diagnosed with ADHD is more likely to develop it themselves. Furthermore, if those siblings are identical twins, meaning they have the same DNA, their chances of developing ADHD is considerably higher. Having identical DNA doesn't mean that the twin is definitely going to develop ADHD, though, which again suggests that both genetic factors and environmental factors play a part. As to a specific gene, it's probably not one single gene that leads to ADHD, but rather multiple genes that determines how severe their symptoms are. These genes likely influence the production or regulation of the brain's neurotransmitters, which are signaling molecules in the brain that are released by one neuron and received by receptors of another neuron. This movement of a neurotransmitter from neuron A to neuron B is basically a message being relayed. It's like the neurons are talking. Dopamine is a specific neurotransmitter that gets released when the brain's involved with behaviors like getting a reward, taking a risk, and being impulsive. Norepinephrine is another neurotransmitter involved in attention and arousal. It's thought that lower amounts of these two neurotransmitters floating around contributes to symptoms of ADHD. The reason why these neurotransmitters might be down in the first place is still not well understood, and research remains ongoing. Now, treatment for ADHD can be tricky since symptoms might vary from patient to patient, although it most often involves either behavioral psychotherapy, medication, or both. Behavioral psychotherapy is often targeted at children and focuses on teaching the child better time management and organizational skills. For example, having structured routines that they can follow, and then giving rewards when they stick to those routines. Also, involving both parents and teachers are important, and both behavioral parent training and behavioral classroom management have been shown to be helpful for children with ADHD. For adults, behavioral psychotherapy might focus on ways of decreasing distractions and also improving organizational skills. If medications are prescribed, typically the first-line options are stimulants. Since it's thought that low levels of neurotransmitters are involved in ADHD, stimulants are used because they tend to increase the number of neurotransmitters, like dopamine, between neurons, therefore reducing symptoms. Common and well-known ADHD medications are molecules that are chemically similar to illicit stimulants, like methamphetamine, but there are some key differences to keep in mind here. All of these chemicals help to increase the release of dopamine from neuron A, but the ADHD medications typically cause a slow release of dopamine, whereas illicit stimulants like methamphetamine cause a really fast release of dopamine. In fact, it's this incredible surge of dopamine that disrupts normal communication between neurons and produces euphoria, and is the reason that illicit substances like methamphetamine are highly addictive. In contrast, the slow and controlled release of dopamine caused by ADHD medications is key and helps a lot of patients improve their focus and their attention. Thanks for watching.
So here we have seen that the cause of ADHD are both genetics and environment, and many genes are responsible for it. So it can be treated with the help of behavioral psychotherapy and medication. Behavioral psychotherapy, it includes involving parents and teachers, time management, organizational skills, and medication can be done, which includes stimulants. So now we will brief about oppositional defiant disorder, which also comes under the disruptive disorders. So oppositional defiant disorder, it is a type of childhood disruptive behavior disorder that primarily involves problems with the self-control of emotions and behaviors. So according to the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, 5th edition, which is DSM-5, the main feature of ODD is a persistent pattern of angry or irritable mood Argumentative or defiant behavior, or vindictiveness, which is the act of showing a wish to harm someone towards others. This activity describes the evaluation and management of oppositional defiant disorders and highlights the role of interprofessional treatment in managing patients with this condition. So, another disorder which comes under the disruptive behavioral disorder is the conduct disorder. It is a behavioral and emotional disorder which presents as repetitive, disruptive, and violent behavior that usually occur during childhood or adolescence. So, we can see that conduct disorder, the males exhibit fighting, stealing, vandalism, they are overly aggressive, and females they exhibit lying, truancy, running away, substance abuse, prostitution, and they're less aggressive. Other symptoms of conduct disorder are like aggressive behavior, destructive behavior, deceitful behavior, violation of rules. So now okay. So we'll be showing a video related to conduct disorder.
Symptoms, diagnosis, and treatment. Conduct disorder is a group of emotional and behavioral problems that arise during adolescence or childhood. People with the condition usually find it difficult to abide by rules and behave in a socially acceptable manner. Their aggressive, destructive, and dishonest activities are often mistaken for delinquency rather than a mental illness. While children with a conduct disorder act tough and appear confident, they are quite insecure and feel threatened by other people. Let's look at conduct disorder in detail. Types. Conduct disorder is categorized into 3 different types, depending on the age at which the symptoms initially occur. The 3 types are 1. Childhood onset, which occurs before the age of 10. 2. Adolescent onset, which occurs during the teen years. 3. Unspecified onset, which occurs when the age at which the symptoms appear are unknown. Causes. Genetic and environmental factors are believed to be responsible for conduct disorder. An impaired frontal lobe of the brain can result in poor cognitive skills, and this may be due to genetics or injury. The lack of cognitive ability can be a cause of conduct disorder. Along with this, environmental factors associated with conduct disorder are 1. Child abuse. 2. Growing up in a dysfunctional family. 3. Living in poverty. 4. Growing up with parents who abuse drugs or alcohol. Furthermore, common risk factors associated with the condition are 1. Being male. 2. A family history of conduct disorder. 3. A family history of mental illness. 4. Suffering from other psychotic disorders. 5. Suffering from abuse or neglect. 6. Trauma. Symptoms. The symptoms a child with conduct disorder may exhibit are categorized into aggressive conduct, such as 1. Using weapons. 2. Bullying or intimidating others. 3. Being aggressive with other people or animals. 4. Forcing someone to take part in a sexual activity. Deceitful behavior, such as 1. Stealing. 2. Lying. 3. Forgery. Children will also be destructive and impulsive. Boys with conduct disorder usually exhibit more aggressive and destructive behaviors, while girls typically act deceitful and look to violate rules. Diagnosis. A conduct disorder diagnosis is conducted by a mental health professional who will ask your child some questions and try to assess their behavioral patterns. A child must exhibit a pattern with at least 3 behaviors common with conduct disorder for a diagnosis to be confirmed. A diagnosis also requires the child to have exhibited one of those behaviors in the last 6 months. Treatment. Children with conduct disorder require long-term treatment as it is difficult to correct behavioral patterns. Conduct disorder treatment typically involves giving the child the care they need to deal with the condition. They might be placed in a different home if they are facing abuse or if their environment is responsible for their symptoms. They might be prescribed medication if they also suffer from mental health conditions such as ADHD and depression. Along with this, children with conduct disorder need regular therapy. Thank
So after this, we will talk about PTSD, which is also one of the disorder which comes under the disruptive behavior disorder. It is a disorder which is characterized by failure to recover after experiencing or witnessing a terrifying event. So this includes combating veterans and people who have experienced or witnessed a physical or a sexual assault, abuse, or an accident, a disaster, a terror attack, or other serious events. So after this, we'll talk about disruptive behavior leading to violence. Violence is an act of physical force that causes or is intended to cause harm. The damage inflicted by violence may be physical, psychological, or both. Violence may be distinguished from aggression, a more general type of hostile behavior that may be physical, verbal, or passive in nature. It is a relatively common type of human behavior which occurs throughout the world. People of any age may be violent, although older adolescents and young adults are most likely to engage in violent behavior. It also has a number of negative effects on those who witness or experience it, and children are especially susceptible to its harm. Fortunately, various programs have been successful at preventing and reducing violence. Violence is also observed in children, in which we can see that children with disruptive behavior disorders typically share difficulties in modulating aggressive conducts, self control, and impulses with resulting behaviors that constitute a threat to others' safety and to social norms. Problematic issues with self control associated with these disorders are commonly first observed in childhood but may often persist into adolescence and adulthood or pose a developmental risk for subsequent negative outcome. Children who display aggressive disruptive behaviors in the early school years are at high risk for poor school outcomes. Some of these children receive positive socialization supports in the school setting that foster improved school behavior and adjustment. So for the others, behavior problems tend to escalate in adolescence with increases in defiant rule breaking and antisocial behaviors. Concurrent attention deficits with aggressive behaviors increase risks for academic difficulties. Attending schools that serve many other aggressive students increases risk for the escalation of aggressive behavioral problems over time. Aggressive disruptive schools behaviors predict lifelong interpersonal problems and legal troubles, as well as underemployment and financial stress. For these reasons, early identification and school based intervention are essential for aggressive students. So, we'll be showing a video related to violence.
Violent behavior is never acceptable. What we do know is that children do have a broad range of aggressive or violent behaviors that we do need to recognize. We can see something as commonplace as pushing and hitting in the playground and carry it forward to children who are significantly getting into trouble and fights so aggressive that legal action is involved. What we do need to understand is that there needs to be an intervention if a child is consistently engaging in some type of violent act. Secondly, we need to understand the etiology of where this aggression is coming from. Children learn this type of behavior from their environment. So whether it's at home or their community, it's something that does need to be addressed. Violent behavior can stem from many different clinical disorders, from something as more common as ADHD to various psychotic behaviors. If you suspect that your child's violence and aggression is getting completely out of hand, you absolutely must contact your pediatrician or someone at the school or your community to get help.
So, now we will talk about bullying. That what is bullying? Bullying is when people repeatedly and intentionally use words or actions against someone or a group of people to cause distress and risk to their well being. These actions are usually done by people who have more influence or power over someone else, or who want to make someone else feel less powerful or helpless. Bullying causes long term damage to self esteem as it affects the child's physical or emotional health and, in some cases, psychological well being. It involves physical, social, as well as emotional damage. It has been observed that those who are bullied are at high risk of mental health problems, headaches, and adjusting to school. The most common issues seen in children or adolescents who are bullied are high risk for substance use, academic difficulties, or harm to self or others. So bullying it includes that keeping someone out of a group either online or offline, acting in an unpleasant way near or towards someone, giving nasty looks, making rude gestures, calling names, being rude and impolite, and constantly giving negative teasing. And the last one is spreading rumors or lies or misrepresenting someone, that is, using their Facebook account to post messages as if it were them. It also includes harassing someone based on their race, sex, religion, gender, or any disability, intentionally and repeatedly hurting someone physically, intentionally stalking someone, and taking advantage of any power over someone else like a perfect or a student representative. Types of bullying it includes face-to-face bullying and covert bullying. Face-to-face bullying, it's sometimes referred to as direct bullying, involves physical actions such as punching or kicking or direct verbal actions such as name calling and insulting. And covert bullying, sometimes referred to as indirect bullying, is less direct but just as painful. It means bullying which isn't easily seen by others and is conducted out of sight, such as excluding people from groups or spreading lies or rumors. Because it is less obvious, it is often unacknowledged by adults. Then we have sexual bullying and cyberbullying, online bullying. Here we can see that in sexual bullying, it is a form of bullying or harassment in connection with the person's sex, body, sexual orientation, or with sexual activity. And in cyberbullying, we can see that it is bullying that takes place over digital devices like cell phones, computers, and tablets. It can occur through SMS, text, and apps, or online in social media forums or gaming where people can view, participate in, or share content. It has many similarities with offline bullying, but it can also be anonymous. It can reach a wide audience, and sent or uploaded material can be difficult to remove. So further, we will explain that how bullying it can affect an individual. Feeling guilty like it is our fault, feeling hopeless and stuck like you can't get out of the situation, feeling alone like there is no one to help you, feeling like you don't fit in the cool group, feeling depressed and rejected by your friends and other groups of people, and feeling unsafe and afraid. So these are some of the things which we can see that how bullying it can affect an individual. Now we will see that how bullying it can affect other people. Bullying can have a negative impact on everyone. It is not just a problem for victims and bullies. If we see or know of others being bullied, you may also feel angry, fearful, guilty, and sad. We may feel as bad as those who are being bullied. We may also feel worried that the bullying could happen to us. When bullying isn't stopped or challenged by anyone, it can create an environment where bullying is accepted and where everyone feels powerless. So how we can stop this thing, how we can stop bullying, what can we do to stop bullies? So if you are being bullied, you should talk to someone you know well and trust. They will give you much needed support and will often have suggestions you had not considered for helping with the situation. You might feel more comfortable taking a friend with you to talk to the bully or when seeking help. If you feel you might too nervous to speak, write down what you would like to say on paper or in an email. If you feel safe and confident, you should approach the person who is bullying you and tell them that their behavior is unwanted and is not unacceptable. and it is not acceptable. So, if you're being bullied while at school, it is a good idea to seek help from a friend or to talk to a teacher or counselor to see if they can help you. So, now I'll play a video regarding bullying in order to get much understanding of this kind of.
Sometimes we hurt each other's feelings by mistake or lash out when we're angry. Bullying is different. Bullying is hurting someone on purpose. Some examples of bullying are name calling, physically hurting someone, excluding them from a group, or posting mean things about them online. So, why do people bully? Oftentimes, the people who bully are hurting from something in their own lives. Bullying may make someone feel powerful at school if they feel helpless at home. This does not make bullying okay, but it can be useful to understand why it might be happening. If you find yourself bullying other people, talk to a trusted adult or counselor about it to help figure out what might be driving you to act this way. You can work through your hurt with help and start to have real friendships. Meet Amber. Amber used to love school, but now she hates going because she feels like there is no one she can trust. When other students make fun of her for wearing the same clothes, her so-called friends don't stand up for her and even join in. Sometimes people call Amber fat, and it really hurts her feelings, but she is too embarrassed to tell anyone. The bullying continued daily. Amber started being alone more and stopped talking in class. Thankfully, Amber's favorite teacher noticed and got her to open up so the bullying could be addressed. You may have heard the saying, "Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words can never hurt me." This is not true. What people say and do to you can have lasting effects on how you feel about yourself and others. You deserve to feel safe and happy at school. If you witness bullying, you can help make it stop. Don't keep quiet. Reach out to the person being bullied by letting them know that you saw what happened. Tell an adult, or if you feel safe to do so, tell the bully to stop. If everyone works together, we can put an end to bullying.
So here we have seen that in this video that one should talk to a friend in order to stop this thing and being a sufferer of bullying. Now we will discuss about exclusion, that what is exclusion. So the social exclusion and peer rejection are pervasive phenomena in children's and adolescents' social interactions. Exclusion and rejection can occur for a myriad of reasons, and although exclusion may not always be intended to cause psychological harm, experiences of exclusion can have detrimental outcomes in terms of emotional and behavioral health, academic difficulties, a decrease in pro-social behavior, and low self-esteem. These experiences can be described as either interpersonal or intergroup. Interpersonal exclusion, it involves rejection from individuals or the peer group because of individual differences such as attractiveness or social deficits such as temperamental characteristics, including being shy or withdrawn. Intergroup exclusion is marked by rejection by individuals or the peer group because of bias or prejudice regarding the victim's group membership, including characteristics such as ethnicity, socioeconomic status, nationality, native language group, gender culture, or religion. Interpersonal and intergroup exclusion may have different causes, but frequently the outcomes are the same for victims of both types of exclusion. So next we are going to explain that are rejection and social exclusion bullying? So we'll discuss about it that many individuals assume that social exclusion and rejection are expected parts of growing up and do not constitute bullying or aggression. So it is an important consideration because not all instances of rejection or exclusion are bullying or even unwarranted. For instance, excluding a child from the basketball team because she has trouble dribbling and passing the ball may be perfectly acceptable. but excluding her from the basketball team because she is shy or because she is from another religion or not. So, thus, it is important to first consider the reasons for exclusion in evaluating whether the rejection or exclusion is in fact bullying. For instance, even young children think about social exclusion differently depending on the context. They might reference the importance of group functioning when discussing excluding an unskilled player from the team, but might reference psychological harm or prejudice when discussing excluding someone from the team because of their temperament or religion. So, we'll discuss about the responses and interventions to interpersonal and intergroup rejection and exclusion. Here we have seen that school systems have taken different approaches to responding to and intervening in instances of peer victimization and bullying. Many of these approaches have targeted rejection and exclusion as well. These approaches often focus on interpersonal rejection and exclusion and take a social deficit approach, whereby interventions target improving the social skills of victims or children at risk for rejection and exclusion with the goal of helping them to improve their social competence. This approach assumes that children who experience interpersonal rejection are behaving in ways that invite their own rejection and that improving their social skills will reduce the victimization. Although some studies of the effectiveness of social skills training have noted positive outcomes, a systematic review documented mixed results or no positive outcomes for almost half of the studies examining social skills training. Moreover, researchers have called for approaches that move beyond an exclusive focus on social skills training and that instead attend more carefully to the peer group context, such as peer norms and social dominance hierarchies that encourage rejection and exclusion. So now we will talk about the social skills training and intergroup exclusion. It includes moving away from the social skills training is particularly important given that these types of approaches are especially unlikely to be helpful when the exclusion based on group membership and not social deficits. In instances of intergroup exclusion and rejection, however, the focus should be placed on the role of stereotypes, bias, and prejudice. For instance, research demonstrates that children and adolescents too at times justify exclusion of their peers based on stereotypes about gender, ethnicity, language, or culture. In instances of exclusion and rejection based on group membership, the focus should not on providing social skills training for victims, but rather on working to create inclusive environments where fair and equal treatment of others is the norm, where children are encouraged to take the perspective of others, and where prejudice and bias are not tolerated. So now we'll talk about the 7 important social skills for kids, which includes sharing, cooperating, listening, following directions, respecting personal space, making eye contact, and using manners. So now we will talk about the treatment for disruptive disorder, which includes parenting modification strategies, social and emotional skills training for children, psychotherapy for the child and the family, medication if it is necessary, cognitive behavioral therapy and parent training, psychosocial treatment with a trained therapist, psycho education for parents to learn about disruptive disorders and effective behavioral modification techniques, parent training to teach parents short-term skills to improve the child's behavior, like providing positive attending and attention, ignoring unwanted behaviors, and delivering fair rewards and punishments. So now we'll be asking some of the questions, like if anyone who is interested to answer this question, like discuss any example of any disorder observed in a person which we have encountered in our daily lives. Any one of you can speak about it, about their experience with any child, with any adolescent, or any other person who has faced from a disorder which we have discussed today. Okay, so being teachers, we normally we just face children who are suffering from conduct disorders. They don't know how to sit in seat properly. They talk, they just move out of the seat and move here and there in the class, or they try to go out um, not on time. They just come late in the class. These are some of the things which we observe on the daily basis in our classrooms. So the next question is, explain hyperactivity as a symptom of ADHD. Any one of you can raise hand and explain it, that how hyperactivity, it can be a symptom of ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Anyone can answer this question? So we have seen that the children showing hyperactivity, they are unable to control their reaction, or they don't know when to act. They're impulsive and find it impossible to sit. So they also have other symptoms like minor mishaps, like knocking things over, or major mishaps, like serious injuries. So the third question is, what is the difference between bullying and harassment? Anyone can answer? So we can see that bullying and harassment are often used interchangeably when talking about hurtful or harmful behavior. They're very similar, but in terms of definition, there is an important difference. Like bullying and harassment, they're similar as they both about power and control, actions that hurt or harm another person physically or emotionally, an imbalance of power between the target and the individual demonstrating the negative behavior. So these are some of the points which we can see regarding this. So now it's the activity time. Okay. So we can also play some of the puzzles in the class, like word making related to, like it can be psychology or any other thing which can engage the children in the class or students in the class. And they can use their time in a constructive manner instead of talking or moving here and there. And there could be a very informative, it can be very informative classroom where they will come to know about new words. So we can have different puzzles and different activities in the classroom in order to engage the children. So here we can see in this puzzle, we can just do the word making. There are some of the words which are given below the puzzle, like neurotransmitters, dendrites, thalamus, sensory, hyperthyroidism, occipital, dopamine. So we can have this such kind of puzzles related to any subject, and this can increase to their knowledge. Then we have another activity, like we have to find the number 9 in this series of digit 6. So are you able to find out the number 9 in this series? You can also type in the chat box. Okay, so I'm getting the answers in the chat box. They're saying second last line. Okay. Then, so can you find the number 250 in this? Anyone who can find the number 250 in this series of numbers? You can just type in the chat box. So like this, we can play some games in the class, which could add to their knowledge, which could be helpful in their brainstorming, and the class could be very much engaging. So in the end, thank you, all of you.